its own military in order to protect itself from the United States, China, and Russia. Very insulting, but perhaps Europe should first pay its fair share of NATO, which the U.S. subsidizes greatly. Our next guest says that reaction was exactly right. He's here to explain it. Retired U.S. Army Brigadier General Anthony Tata, who is also the author of the new book, there's the picture of it, called Dark Winter. Thank you so much, General, for being with us. Why do you think that was right of him to tweet?
Well, it's exactly right, because when you look at what Macron said, even mentioning America in the same breath as Russia and China ignores our storied history with France all the way back to the Revolutionary War and how they helped us, and then World War I, World War II, and our participation of millions of U.S. soldiers on European soil to defend Europe and especially France. And today we have tens of thousands of soldiers forward deployed in Poland, Estonia, Italy, Germany, to help act as a deterrent against Russia and in any nation that wants to do harm to Europe, because they're our number one trading partner, and we understand that Western Europe in particular is very important to the United States. So his Macron's just showed his naivete there, and it was hugely insulting to every veteran living today and those that have passed before us that paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Well, they certainly don't need an army to protect them from the United States. General, Mr. Macron also said this yesterday. Watch this.
Patriotism is the exact opposite of nationalism. Nationalism is a betrayal of patriotism by saying, our interests first, who cares about the others? We erase what a nation holds dearest, what gives it life, what makes it great, and what is essential, its moral values.
Do you agree nationalism is a betrayal of patriotism?
Of course not. When you look it up, even the globalists in Google list patriotism as the definition of nationalism. So Macron again shows his naivete, and any elected leader's first responsibility is to the people that elected them. And so President Trump's responsibility, he is accountable to the American people. President Macron is accountable to the French people. Of course, we had President Obama, who went on the apology tour and subordinated American interests to the rest of the world in pursuit of that globalist agenda, and Macron is of that same cloth. But nationalism is a good thing. Nationalism is something that we think about every day as soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. When we're deployed, we fight for that flag. That's what we do.
Yeah, President kind of reminded us of that in that tweet about NATO, too, that they need to do their fair share as well. Thank you so much, and look out for their interests.
Thank you, General.
Thanks, General.
All right, straight ahead, Florida Governor Rick Scott has filed 3 lawsuits as the recount is underway in Florida. The governor is here live in about 10 minutes. You're not going to want to miss it. And
these two sisters served our country in the military, and now they're running a company.
I'm thinking a lot about my service today, and one of my favorite parts, my absolute favorite part about serving was the incredible men and women I had the honor to serve with. And I'm so grateful that here at Sword and Plow, we continue to work with amazing veterans in our business. We work with 5 different veteran-owned American manufacturers to make all of our products, and they are just so incredible and talented and hardworking.
And what you do that is so unique is you repurpose military surplus things into beautiful things that you should buy today.
Thank you. And so far, since launching in 2013, we've upcycled over 30,000 pounds of military surplus, supported 75 veteran jobs to our supply chain and manufacturing partners, and we've donated back over $100,000 to impactful veteran nonprofits.
Wow. Fantastic. That is great. How do you get uniforms repurposed?
Yes.
What else?
So we have a variety. We repurpose a variety of things. From our jewelry line is made out of repurposed 50 caliber shell casings.
So these things started out like that, and then they wind up earrings, pendants.
Yes.
Money clips, tie clips, they're all hand hammered. These are some of our best selling products. And in addition to being here today, we are deciding to help your viewers get some of their holiday shopping done a little bit early.
Good idea.
We've got a special code for 15% off on swordandplow.com. All they have to do is enter Fox15. We've got some of our best-selling tote bags. These are the bags that I'm carrying 365 days out of the year. They're the best bags I've owned. I've I've walked through rainstorms, snowstorms. They've got so many different pockets. So we've really designed everything with form and function and our customer in mind, because growing up, Emily and I had certain pain points with other products that we had owned before.
Emily, can you go back to your service and sort of what it means for you, but also how you applied it to the transition from the battlefield to the business?
Definitely. My military service it will always be one of the most formative and impactful experiences I've ever had. And I'm so incredibly grateful that my dad inspired me to serve, that I had the opportunity to serve and give back to a nation that's given so much to me and our family. And so, I'm just thrilled that through Sword and Plow, I'm able to continue that commitment to service and giving back, and to build.
If you're in the military or one of your family members is, we thank you so much. Thanks for your sacrifice.
Absolutely.
We love you. All eyes on the state of Florida this morning, where the election recount is happening as we speak.
This, as Governor Rick Scott, who will be our live guest in just a moment, files more lawsuits over the recount process.
All right, Griff Jenkins is actually inside the Broward County Office of Elections, where behind him, have they started counting, or are they still getting ready to count?
They're still getting ready to count, guys, and the Broward County Canvassing Board just came into session. You see them behind me there because they were sort of sorting out this separation of ballots. They finished the early voting, but they've still got to do mail-in and election day. Then they'll begin the recounting. You're looking now at the machines. Initially, there were 10. Now there's 12. 2 were brought from Tallahassee around 4 a.m. this morning when we were here. But much of what Governor Scott's lawsuit focuses on is against Dr. Brenda Snipes, the supervisor here, accusing her of failing to account for the number of ballots left to be counted. And that's what they're trying to do here right now. Now, we spoke with the Democrat attorney and the Republican attorneys here, Bill Scheer and Mitchell Berger. Here's what they had to say about the supervisor yesterday.
Brenda Snipes might be underpersoned and might have too much thrust upon her suddenly. I don't think there's anyone who thinks she is dishonest or lacks integrity.
She allowed felons to vote. There were 30 of them that came in that people voted twice. If somebody cheats and commits a felony, should their first vote count? I don't think so. I think they ought to strike them all. But it's, welcome to sunny Broward County.
Also yesterday, Florida's Attorney General Pam Bondi writing a letter to the Commissioner of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement asking them to investigate claims made here against Dr. Snipes and elsewhere. I can also add to the story that up in Palm Beach, there is the supervisor there saying that she doesn't believe they can meet that Thursday, November 15th deadline. That is when all 67 counties must turn in their second unofficial results. We'll find out whether or not that actually happens, guys.
All right. Griff, thank you very much. And of course, if they can't meet the deadline according to state law, then they revert back to the number they handed in before. Got that?
But we should know something by Thursday. Thursday is the deadline.
That's right. Let's bring in the current governor of the great state of Florida, Governor Rick Scott. He is, as you know, locked into this whole thing with the.
He wants to be the senator.
He does. He feels he is a senator. And Governor, you asked a good question yesterday. How did they come up with 93,000 votes after election night in Palm Beach and also in Broward County? Where did those come from?
They won't tell us. We have no idea. We know that our laws are set up to prevent fraud. Okay, we know that they didn't let in party officials to observe. We know that there was no transparency. They're supposed to tell us where all this was coming from, when, how many ballots, all these things. We know mysteriously 93,000 new ballots showed up after Election Day. We know that Brenda Snipes has said that she took illegal ballots and put them in with legal ballots. She admitted that. Mm-hmm. We know that they continued to try to count after the deadline, which was noon on Saturday. So we know all of these things, but in the end, I have 600 more votes than Bill Nelson. I won the election. There's a normal recount. We had a big turnout. 8 million people voted. So my focus now is, we'll watch this recount process. No recount has ever overturned a lead like that, but I'm going to focus on getting to Washington and getting my agenda implemented.
So this morning when I'm reading so many different articles about what happened in Florida and the rules that many people are claiming that these election supervisors broke, I'm wondering, why aren't they held accountable if they're breaking these laws? And no one seems to know the answer to that. Why is there someone down there that can force them to give you the answers that they have to give you by law?
Well, we had to go to the courts to get them to comply with the law. I've asked, and Pam Bondi, our Attorney General, has directed the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to do an investigation to understand. We want free and fair elections. We want people to participate, but we don't want any fraud. We need to know exactly what happened here, and that's what we're trying to understand. We never want this to happen again. No one else to go through this. But we won. Ron DeSantis won. We need to go forward and start thinking about our agendas. Bill Nelson is clearly a sore loser. He can't stand the fact that he's not going to be elected for the first time in decades, and he won't. He's just here to steal this election. That's what he's done. His lawyer came down here and said, "I'm here to win the election. I'm not here to get a free and fair election, make sure votes are counted." No, he wants to win the election. That's his only purpose.
So, Governor, that's your message to Democrats. But what do you say to your fellow Republicans who wake up this morning and say, wait a second, you've been the governor for the last 8 years, and you got a lot done on the economy and taxes. We've heard all about that. And it appears that you won because of that. But why didn't you get more done on election reform? Why didn't you take out Brenda Snipes when we know she got caught destroying ballots in previous elections?
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons why we filed the lawsuit yesterday, to make sure all these ballots are impounded, that Florida Department of Law Enforcement or sheriffs watch the ballots and watch the machines. There's no issues going forward. We've passed legislation to make sure that we had free and fair elections. The problem we have is supervised elections are locally elected. We have the expectation that they comply with the law to prevent fraud. So my focus right now is getting the Florida Department of Law Enforcement in there to review, to make sure that we end up with a free and fair election.
But why didn't you take her out as governor, take her out of her position? I understand legislation was passed, but when she got caught previously destroying ballots, Governor, why didn't you say you're out?
Well, first off, there's limitations what the governor can do. These are separately elected individuals. Mm-hmm. So you have to comply with what the law is. And so what we've done is pass legislation to make sure, do everything we can to make sure there's no fraud. And then, if we have concerns, get law enforcement to come in and look at what's going on.
Right. One of the other things that some have suggested is a red flag, Governor, is the fact that in Broward County alone, nearly 25,000 more people voted for governor than they did for senator. Of course, you were governor. Now you're interested in the senator line. But historically, that happens. In fact, last time Bill Nelson ran for Senate, when there was also a governor race, the undercount was something like where it is right now, about 35,000.
No one knows why. And those things happen. People decide not to vote. We have a lot of people on the ballot. I know sometimes we have judges on the ballot. People don't know, so they just don't vote. So no one knows why. But what Bill Nelson needs to do now is what he would be asking me to do if I had lost the election, is say, look, the election happened. Let's go forward. But he's not. He's just a pure sore loser trying to steal an election.
I'm sure it has to be really frustrating when you've worked so hard, tirelessly, then you were working on helping those folks that were displaced because of the hurricane. You did a great job with that, from what we've heard from everyone down in Florida. I know it has to be frustrating when you look at the numbers, you win, you had your beautiful speech with your family there and your daughters next to you, and then this news comes in. But there are a lot of people that say around the country, let's just count the votes just so that we can redo it, and let's see what the problem is. Let's recount the votes. We want to make sure we do this right. Every voice needs to be heard. Are you questioning what's going on in these counties? Are you thinking there's something nefarious going on?
Well, we know. First off, we won by 57,000 votes that night. So we know that since then, just in these 2 counties, 93,000 new votes showed up. How'd that happen? We know that Brenda Snipes said that ballots that she acknowledged, knows that they were illegal, she mixed them in with legal ballots. We know that happened. Okay, she said that she said they did that. Yeah. We know that they tried to continue to count ballots after the deadline. We know that. I mean, so I want all the votes. I want to make sure there's a free and fair election. Right. But there's laws. Comply with the laws. It's supposed to prevent fraud. So you're right, Ainsley. You're right. It's frustrating. We worked our tail off. A lot of volunteers. I had thousands of volunteers. We worked hard. We won the election. So it's frustrating, but we won. We're going to win the recount because it's never been overturned before. I'm going to Washington as the next Florida senator. I've got a whole agenda how to make Washington a better place for all of us.
Senator, are you going to the new senator orientation? I think is in the next day or two.
I'll still decide. We're still figuring out our schedule.
Okay, good enough. All right, Governor Rick Scott, thank you very much. The Florida recount underway should be concluded by Thursday at 3 p.m.
At least it's Thursday. I had heard originally some people were saying it's going to be December. So at least
if there's a hand recount, that could take a while.
All right. Jillian Mealy's here with some more headlines.
Jillian, that's right. Good Monday morning. Hope you had a good weekend. We're following a Fox News alert right now, and at least 31 people are dead and more than 200 missing as strong winds fuel the California wildfires. This is a live look at the burning fire in Malibu. And in the north, the Camp Fire is responsible for 29 deaths alone, matching the most in state history. But through the devastation, look at this, the American spirit shining through. Officers spotting this American flag amazingly unharmed. They plan to return it to its owners. We will have a live report from California later this hour. Family, friends, and officers expected to say final goodbyes to the fallen sergeant killed last week in the Thousand Oaks massacre. A public memorial service for Ron Healis is set for Thursday. The 29-year veteran of the force and 11 others were tragically killed when a gunman opened fire in a bar during college country night before killing himself in California last week. Vice President Pence landing in Tokyo just a short time ago. He's set to meet with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe before departing for key summits in Singapore and Papua New Guinea. The vice president is expected to put China's feet to the fire regarding trade and reassure American allies during his Asia trip. Let's look at your headlines. I'll send it back to you.
Vice President flying to Tokyo. The Eagles didn't fly so high last night.
No, they did not. Thank you for that reminder.
Would you like a little salt for that wound? Nice
Thank
try.
you, Ed.
All right, get ready for an onslaught, not just at Jillian, but of investigations on the Trump administration.
One of our first orders of business will be, if necessary, to subpoena him.
We are going to need to ruthlessly prioritize on the Intel Committee, so we've already started that process.
Constitutional law professor Jonathan Turley says this is all leading up to an effort to impeach the president. He joins us live next.
And this baby picture pays tribute to the classic movie A Christmas Story. Look in the background, even the lamps there. Now the photographer is being forced to defend
Chief Ethics Officer of the Justice Department, asking him to issue guidelines. Should Whitaker recuse himself?
Matt Whitaker immediately, one of our first orders of business will be, if necessary, to subpoena him.
We are going to need to ruthlessly prioritize on the Intel Committee, so we've already started that process.
Democrats right out of the gate on Sunday pledging to unleash what the media are calling an investigation onslaught into the Trump administration. Here with analysis, Professor Jonathan Turley. He, of course, a constitutional law professor at George Washington University. As you can see today, he's down in Dallas. So, Professor, are you surprised that the Democrats wasted no time in announcing, you know what, we're going to start digging, and we're going to start digging soon?
No, they campaigned on this promise that they would hit the president and the administration with a storm of subpoenas. Right. This is really going to answer that Zen-like question of one hand clapping. You know, they control one house, but that's enough to bring in these individuals into oversight committees. And there's an obvious interest in building a case for impeachment. It's just they don't really have the impeachment grounds. I'm here in Dallas to debate CNN's Jeff Toobin on impeachment. That is the subject that everyone is talking about. I just don't believe that they have enough right now to make out a single article of impeachment.
And you say, you told me in the commercial, Mr. Toobin's going to suggest that impeachment is political, and you disagree with that.
The framers viewed this as a legal standard. They wanted to make it difficult. It is not a court of law technically, but it has standards. It's very easy to say, oh, this is just a political judgment, because it releases these members to just vote their political interests. That's not what the framers intended.
You know, when you look at how the campaign ran over the last year, we heard a lot from Maxine Waters over the period of time talking about impeach, but then the party leaders were like, yeah, let's back away from that. People, if the people are going to put us in power, they want us to try to get stuff done. And now we see all these committees that are talking about hearings.
That's right. And, you know, this is what the framers were afraid of. Impeachment's not supposed to be a recreational exercise. It's not supposed to be something that you do to please your base. It's a very serious and disruptive and dysfunctional element to introduce into our system. The chances that Donald Trump will be impeached are virtually nil at this point. So first they're going to throw out a net and try to find any possible evidence that they can make out an impeachable offense. They don't have it right now. But when you look at the range and scope of the suggested investigations, it's really breathtaking.
Well, it's filled with 24 of the most spectacular whiskeys ever created. And that is some of the news, Ainsley.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Well, we all remember the classic movie, A Christmas Story. How can we not? It comes on a million times every Christmas, doesn't it? Well, it shows how one 1940s family prepares for the big holiday, including 9-year-old little Ralphie, who wants one thing.
No, I want an official red undercover knife. Do you want to get my rifle?
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
That iconic scene inspiring a local Indiana photographer to snap that photo right there, which includes a miniature wooden toy gun, but the adorable photo sparking some fierce backlash. Here to react is that photographer, Amy Hale, and Adria Rochette, the mother of that newborn little Liam, who is in the costume now. Hey, ladies, thank you so much for being with us.
Hi. Thank you.
Hi. Okay, Amy, I'll start with you because you posted the picture, and then what happened? You're the photographer. Yes. What happened next?
Well, I posted the photo and initially, had lots of positive reactions. And then there was a couple initial reactions, whether it was because I didn't understand the movie or, had something to say. But then it has become a very overwhelmingly positive thing. And we've had lots of positive comments and emails and messages from all over the world now. So it's become quite a neat thing.
Well, Adrian, we wanted to have you on because there were a lot of critics that were upset that there was a gun in the picture, and you really thought of all the details. You had the leg lamp, you had the gun, you had the glasses, and the outfit, obviously. What'd you say?
I said it wouldn't have been complete without them.
I know. So what were your responses to all the critics that were upset with you for having the gun?
Honestly, without the gun, it wouldn't have been the movie. So, I agree with Amy that they probably just didn't understand the movie, and it was probably a little bit of misunderstanding. But it was still really exciting for us to see a movie kind of come to life in a newborn shoot.
All right, so you'd do it again. You don't regret it?
Not at all. I would totally do it again.
And Amy, I understand you have some ideas for next year already. You're already thinking about that?
I am. I'm always thinking.
What are your ideas?
I will be sure to post it when I have it finished.
We'll have to wait another year?
Probably. Take some time to plan it all out.
Adria, what was your husband's reaction?
Both of us were just we showed up to the studio and we saw the set up, and we were both just in shock and in awe at the same time. We were so excited, and then obviously the reaction on social media, we were a little, we knew that some people would probably be, or have an opinion about the little toy gun, but honestly, we were both just still so amazed that we were able to bring something to life like we did. So.
Well, tell me about Liam. Is this your first child?
This is our second. We have a 4-year-old at home, a big sister, Alex. She is obsessed with her little brother. So he's going to probably be dressed up a lot like this as he grows up.
So sweet.
We might have to take his picture again.
How's she doing? How's she doing having a baby brother at home?
She loves it. She's, obviously any 4-year-old is going to have her moments, but she really does love him a lot.
Isn't it the best to have a baby again? That's so sweet. Amy, where'd you find that toy gun that was so small?
I wanted it to be perfect and, small enough that it would get the effect out there, but not be controversial. Here we are. But I think, it's obviously not a real one, so I was very particular about that, but I wanted it to be realistic enough to make the photo effective. So I did find, his name is Ruben. I'm not real sure how to pronounce his name, but I put it on my post. And he hand makes them. So I found him just by chance, and I'm glad that I did, because it made for the perfect little thing to add to the photo.
Well, Adria says she doesn't regret taking the picture. How about you, Amy? Would you do it again?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. And what's your website if people want to go on and find out more information about how they can hire you?
You can go to www.coffeecreekstudio.com. I also have my Facebook page, which is on Facebook with Coffee Creek Studio. So.
Thank you both for being with us.
Over 30 deaths because of the wildfires. And here's the setup. We've got high pressure that's anchored across the Great Basin. We've got those clockwise winds funneling through those valleys and canyons, compresses the winds, makes them faster, and it heats them up. So unfortunately, we have the threat for Santa Ana winds, not only for just much of California, but really concentrated for Southern California. Here are your current winds. It's very calm right now for Southern California, but we are anticipating those Santa Ana winds to kick up gusts in excess of 50 to 70 miles per hour. That is going to be impossible for firefighters to try to contain. So they need to get out there right now. The fire threat, the wind threat is going to be ongoing, especially this afternoon, into the overnight and into tomorrow. Again, wind gusts in excess, especially across Southern California, of 50 to 70 miles per hour. That's like a hurricane force wind gust. Gets a little bit better as you head towards Central and Northern California, but we still have red flag warnings up for 21 million people across California. The winds will again be concentrated over Southern California, and unfortunately, we're going to be dealing with this threat not only today, but Tuesday as well. It's dry, it's very warm, and the wind gusts are going to be really causing a lot of problems for firefighters. Of course, prayers out for all of those brave men and women who are trying to save others today. Back to you.
Absolutely.
All right, JD, thank you very much.
Okay.
And so Santa Ana winds, amazing, 70 miles per hour.
You just worked so hard your whole life to build what you have, and then to see these houses and then all these deaths. All right, let's hand it up to Jillian, who has some more headlines for us. Hey, Jillian.
And that's right. Good morning. Vice President Mike Pence has a very powerful Veterans Day message. In a Fox News op-ed, he writes, quote, "Veterans have no better friend than President Trump. This president and our administration understand that veterans' benefits are not entitlements, they're earned." The vice president also writes how the administration is committed to helping veterans by doing things like reforming health care and implementing the Whistleblower and Protection Act. We haven't seen the last of candidate Hillary Clinton. That's according to one of her former aides. In a Wall Street Journal op-ed, Mark Penn writes, quote, "True to her name, Mrs. Clinton will fight this out until the last dog dies. You can expect her to run for president once again." Penn will join us live next hour. But we just heard from former Secret Service agent Dan Bongino, who worked with Clinton. He says he's not surprised.
If she doesn't have power, her whole life revolves around being that person in charge. She needs it. She wants it. She can't lose. And listen, I would not, don't sleep on this. Don't fall asleep on Hillary. I get it that it's kind of become a running joke.
With every decision you make, is this good for the company?
Blue sky thinking, low-hanging fruit, and Synergize also top the list of the most annoying things people say at work. That's according to a poll at an IP Expo in London. Let us know what you think. Send an email to friends@foxnews.com. Back to you.
Do you have one that you hate, Jillian?
I don't think so, actually.
What about "It's not my job"?
Not my table, not my station.
Right.
There's a lot of that.
There's a lot. I don't know. I don't have one.
All
Yeah,
right.
don't you love that? I'll go get your waiter.
Yeah.
Please just get me a water.
All right. Coming up on this Monday, ICE wanted this illegal immigrant deported, but a Sanctuary County released him instead. Now he's been charged with a triple murder. How does this keep happening? We're going to talk about that.
Some say it's not a big deal. Really? Plus, the media says Republican concerns about the Florida recount are just conspiracy theories. But our next guest says if that's the case, why did a judge just say those concerns are real?
races undergo a recount.
But the left is painting their concerns as nothing but, quote, baseless conspiracy theories. So what's the real truth?
Managing editor for Olympic Media, Katie Freites, joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning, guys.
You know, Katie, I look at another state like Wisconsin where the governor, Scott Walker, was ousted. On election night, he could have demanded a recount. It was tens of thousands of votes. And he runs the state, obviously, as governor, so he could try to game it. But he said, you know what? I lost fair and square. I'm out. He did the right thing. Why in Florida do we have all this, what seems like gaming of the system?
Well, I think obviously because this race does seem to be a little bit closer, but on top of this, we have to focus on Brenda Snipes. So she does Broward County. She is the commissioner for these elections, and she has had a long history of accidents and mistakes. In 2016, she did this to a Democratic opponent, a challenger to Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And even Tim Canova, he said that this seemed very suspicious. She had a taped deposition where she admitted to destroying ballots. This woman has a very long history in this county and Palm Beach as well, these two counties where we're seeing this issue in Florida of very suspicious behavior. So I don't understand how Democrats can look at this and say, oh yeah, it's just a conspiracy. Republicans are just upset.
So Katie, the law says all the mail-in votes and all the absentee ballots, they have to be accounted for within 30 minutes of the polls closing. So everyone mails them in, they have to be counted, and then that's it. But on Tuesday, Brenda Snipes, the supervisor of elections for Broward County, she said that there were 634,000 votes that were cast. Then on Thursday, a few days later, she changed that to 840 ballots had been cast. Why are we discovering new votes all of a sudden?
Well, right. That's always the thing, isn't it? They find these boxes of undiscovered ballots always after time is up. And it's not like they're ever mixed ballots. It's not like they're all Republican. They all only seem to be these mysterious Democratic write-ins that people have that help their candidate. She is a Democrat, and it's so suspicious. I don't understand how the media can look at this and scoff. There's laws that are being broken, and maybe it's not intentional, but these laws are being broken over and over again. And two of Rick Scott's lawsuits have a judge ruled in favor of those lawsuits against Brenda Snipes and Susan Butcher in Palm Beach County. So if that's not an indication that this is not a conspiracy, I don't know what is.
Katie, the president tweeted this out.
Right.
Kind of on the heels of what Ainsley was talking about. Rick Scott was up by 50,000 votes on election day. Now they found many votes, and he's only up 15,000 votes. The Broward effect. How come they never find Republican votes? All right, well, that's his point. But a moment ago, you said all these laws are being broken. What laws are being broken?
So we have a few things that are going on. Of course, as you guys said previously, there is a certain deadline where ballots have to be counted by. There's reporting
Thursday at 3
deadlines.
o'clock.
Yes, and you have to, every 30 minutes, you're supposed to be reporting in the results as you go. She's had issues beforehand, as I said, where they reported results a few years ago earlier than the polls closing. There's been a systematic history with Brenda Snipes of breaking laws. And again, there's an over ballot and under ballot issue that's occurred in Palm Beach, which is one of these lawsuits. And then also with Brenda Snipes, she refuses to release voter information or let a commission come in to oversee the process, which is the commission's job.
But Katie, given all of these problems, and in the case of Brenda Snipes, who you've mentioned several times, she's previously been caught destroying ballots, doing things that are improper. Republicans probably regret they didn't do something about this. Rick Scott has been the governor for 2 terms.
Absolutely, and I think there is perhaps some buyer's remorse now on Republicans' end. I mean, she was brought in to replace a supervisor before her who was taken out on less than wonderful circumstances, on some improprieties on that, and she seems to be following this exact same trend. So I'm not sure why Republicans didn't focus on this beforehand, perhaps just because there was not as egregious of an issue that we're seeing right now, but she has to go. Brenda Snipes cannot be overseeing anything in any county ever again.
All right. Katie Freites, thanks for being with us.
Appreciate it. To support our heroes every single day, not just on Veterans Day, by training and preparing vets to work in high-tech careers. Such an important thing to do. Joining me now, NS2 Serves Chairman, General John Campbell, U.S. Army veteran, and NS2 Serves graduate, William Velasquez Morales. We have the Vice President of Shell Lubricants, Jim McCormick, as well. Gentlemen, you're here for a very special reveal, I'd like to say. But General, why don't you start out by telling me what exactly the organization does?
Well, thanks. 300
300,000 veterans transition out of the military every year, so we got to look at how we can impact them, help them find some jobs. So about 4 years ago, Mark Testonio, President and CEO of SAP NS2, started NS2 Serves, and it takes 9/11 veterans. It puts them through IT training, 8, 10, or 12 weeks, and then we guarantee them a job when they get out. It's life-changing.
How important is this? Because when veterans make that transition from the battlefield to business, it can be difficult. We hear about the scourge of suicide among veterans, the scourge of homelessness that we also want to address. But talk about that transition home.
The transition is a little bit difficult, trying to find a good career with NS2 that give us the opportunity to advance, to give a stable finance for your household, also an amazing career, and you're blessed.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're blessed. Your company helps out?
Absolutely. So Shell Lubricants has a deep background in getting back to our communities, and we got involved with NS2 Serves early on, but we began to see the large number of applicants, and we couldn't house all of them, couldn't bring them all in. So we began to think, what could we do to create awareness? We sat down with Tommy Pike Customs, great partner to Shell, and we created this idea for the sole purpose of building awareness to get more companies, more individuals involved, so we get more stories and experiences like Will.
Now, I got to tease Kilmeade because I understand that he screwed up your name. Now, you got it on the hat.
I know, I wore this.
He's not here, so he can't defend himself.
I wore for Brian because he said B-52, I think. NS2 Serves.
NS2 Serves has a big
Brian,
reveal.
We love you.
We love Brian. We have a monster reveal right here on Fox and Friends. I'll let you do the honors.
Before you
tell me what it is.
Yeah, so www.ns2serves.org. Testimonials of our veterans after they've gone through is pretty incredible. We're taking applications now for the next class. We couldn't do it without our sponsors like Shell, Tommy Pike as well. But we need other corporations to take up this model. 300,000 veterans each year. We can do much better for our veterans. What we're going to do today is we're going to unveil a Jeep that Shell here and Tommy Pike has taken, and it's pretty fantastic.
Is
we're
there any doubt that he's a general? He just takes command. I want to reveal. No. Here's what we're doing.
We're going to take this around the country and get awareness for NS2 Serves.
Let's start it right here. Let's have the big reveal.
Tommy, you got to help me out here.
Whoa! The NS2 Serves Jeep. Look at that. That is really awesome. Tell us where it's headed.
So this is going to go all over the country. Going to go to trade shows. It's going to go to car shows, and then probably in the May time frame, we're going to auction this thing off, and the proceeds will go to NS2 Serves. But Tommy Pike tells a story with this thing. The digits here are boots to suits. The inside of this thing is phenomenal.